Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Flipping Miami. Today, I have a special guest. Sorry, Alain from Indianapolis. We met at a mastermind of Steve Richards, another friend of mine, and me and Alain kind of hit it off. We started talking, and it was a mastermind of investors, mainly in Indy and some other parts of the country. And Alain's a young guy from Venezuela, lives in Indy. I don't know how that happened. But what really caught my eye was that he not only was doing deals and he's not only hustling and out there, but he was also bettering himself in the sense of he was doing improv classes, learning salsa. And I might be, saying some wrong things, but I remember you were doing a couple different things, and I really appreciated that you were able to share that. It was inspiring to see, like, man, it's so cool how someone that comes from Venezuela gets here, starts learning wholesale at a young age, and then starts really like expanding his horizon on different things in life. So, dude, he's just an overall really cool guy, good friend of mine. So, Alain, dude, thanks for coming.
Yeah, man, for sure. And by the way, Raul, you're breaking up just a little bit, so I guess I'll let you know if sometimes it's not coming through.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, did you want me to start a certain way or begin sharing certain things? I'd be more than happy, I guess, to explain how I got here from Venezuela, if that's how you want me to kick off the conversation.
Yeah, that's an interesting little story, because here in Miami, there's tons of Venezuelans and stuff. And I hear a lot about them coming here and things like that. In Indianapolis, you don't hear so much.
Yeah.
But dude, so yeah, like tell me a little bit. Let's kind of start from the beginning. Like, who was Aline? And we'll get into after this. We'll get into like what your business looks like now and the flipping and all that. But tell me, like, if I would have met you in high school, who was Aline in high school? Were you a good student? Did you play sports? Did you like what kind of who was Aline in sophomore, junior year type of thing?
Yeah, no, for sure. I guess if you would have met me in high school, I was I would say a good student.
Okay.
I came from a family where, again, and most people I think have that typically get into something like this, a big catalyst is reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad or one of those books. So, I came from a family that, always took the educational track to then go into a career, like I think most people do. And so in high school, that was going to be my path forward. I think in general, it seems like there's steps, right? You go through school, you go through high school, you get good grades, you go to college, and then eventually you get a job, and the rest is history. So yeah, I was a good student in high school. I wasn't Harvard or MIT bound or anything, but was a good student. I've been active my entire life, although I did not necessarily play any high school sports. I've played sports my entire life, and it was one of the main things that I did during that time. I wasn't. Go ahead.
Would you play?
So I come from a tennis family. My sister stayed actually in tennis and then played number one singles for her university here locally. I paid for his college in Venezuela through coaching tennis. So I played a decent amount of tennis. But my passion sports wise has always been basketball. So ever since I moved to the States, naturally basketball is a big sport here, and I gravitated towards it when I was young. And so I played a lot of basketball growing up. I lived in California for a while. So out there I did crew, which is rowing. So I rowed. But yeah, mainly basketball, tennis, rowing. I like to run. I like to mountain bike. Whenever I get the chance, I like to go snowboarding. So it's one of the things that I'm doing a lot more as of late, getting out to Colorado as much as possible, and did a Canada trip earlier this year.
Damn.
So staying active has always been a big part of me. And if you would have met me in high school, I likely would have been doing a lot of those things.
So it seems like you're pretty chill. You just stay at home and play video games and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, snowboarding, mountain biking, tennis, basketball.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There was video games back then too, but I guess you could say a healthy balance, as much as my parents would allow.
That's awesome. And then so you're in high school, and so your family is more of like a working class family. You didn't come from what it sounds like. You didn't come from like a wealthy family, money wise. So let me ask you this: So you're finishing up high school, you're thinking of what to do next. In your mind, what was going to be where you were going to work, or what was going to be your career path leaving high school? I mean, you were so busy doing sports and things. Like, did you think you were going to do something in the sports world? Did you think that you were going to, I don't know, just work a regular job? Like, what was in your mind?
Honestly, man, at the time, no idea. I think I was maybe too young and stupid to give it proper thought.
Right.
When I applied to college, my parents aren't from the States, so they weren't necessarily all familiar with the process and how everything worked. So I navigated that to some degree on my own. But, I ended up going to Purdue University and started off in engineering.
Right.
Just I had to pick a major. And it seemed like a good career choice at the time, which it is. But it eventually was not a fit for me. So coming out of high school, I guess you could say I was fairly lost. We're not really sure what I was going to be doing in the future. And it was mainly a thing of like, well, college is the next step and you just have to go to college. Without necessarily knowing exactly what I was going to be doing long term.
Gotcha.
I felt too young and maybe too lost to really know it at the time. But yeah, long story short, went to Purdue, started in engineering, ended up in political science out of all things.
Wow.
And after that, did not exercise that. Went to the University of Cincinnati for about a year to do grad school in architecture. And also after a year, came back home because I realized that was also not the career path I wanted to be in. So a lot of stumbling over that time. Yeah, there was a lot of stumbling and going back and forth on things until I, finally found myself where I'm at today. And I think it's where I need to be and where I'm happy.
I got it. So it sounds like you were just very comfortable just trying a bunch of things, like, from tennis and even like the sports world. And then like you went into college not really knowing, but you tried a couple things, like, and then you probably eventually tried real estate and you're like, okay, I like this stuff. So I think that's a really good quality that you probably didn't even notice, but like the ability to open your mind to different things and actually take action on it, like, okay, I want to try snowboarding. And then you actually go and try snowboarding. Oh, I want to try engineering, and you actually go and try engineering. I think that's a really good and interesting quality, and probably why you got into like salsa dancing, and you're like curious by nature. I think that's a really good quality to explore. So let's fast forward a little bit, and then you finished college, or you were in college for a while in Purdue, which is a great school. I remember we spoke about this when we were there, and then so you got into real estate. What was that transition like? So you were probably working somewhere or in college or anything. Was it an event in time? Like, was it a moment that you're like, okay, I'm going to start my own little business. I'm going to do my own thing. Was it like a chain of events? Was it like, did something happen?
Yeah.
Like what happened that you're like, all right, I'm going to do my thing now. Like
Yeah, for sure. So, I ended up reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think around the time I was like 24, and it really left an impression on me. But like I mentioned, I come from a family that is not entrepreneurial or business minded at all.
Right.
And so, I was looking at it mainly as a foreigner, not really understanding the whole concept of things just because I never had the experience in that world or the guidance. So it looked really daunting, or it seemed really daunting to do something like that for me, although it did leave a mark. So fast forward, I was working a corporate job here locally for an insurance company, one of the large ones here in Indianapolis. And I ended up buying a house. This is before I knew anything about real estate. I ended up buying a house through a real estate agent, and, going through the process, pretty much had my hand held the whole time. We looked at houses. She helped me along. And next thing I know, I'm closing on a home, and I'm a homeowner.
What is it? Was it like an investment house, or was it to live in?
No. Yeah, the one I'm in right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So just my own personal residence. And I remember that at the end, I felt, again, like I was guided the whole time and didn't really understand much of what was going on other than being helped. And so I wanted to get educated. And from there, I decided to get my license. Hold on, Raul. Sorry, let me cancel this because I have a call.
Yeah, I think the connection.
Did you hear that? Yeah, so like I said, I bought this house that I'm in currently, and at the time I was pretty ignorant about the process, given that the real estate agent pretty much did everything for me. And, after a few months, I ended up with keys in a house. I wanted just to get educated in everything that happened and understand. So my thought was like, well, let me get licensed and go through school and get educated in the whole real estate side of things. Not only because I felt pretty ignorant about all that I went through, but like I said, having read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I figured it'd probably be a good thing to have in the back of my head and to be knowledgeable of. So I got licensed without necessarily any intention of going into real estate, more as far as education for me. And a few months in, maybe a year, on Facebook, a fortune builders thing came through.
No, good old.
So good old fortune builders. And so I would say that was one of the big catalysts. I went to their one-day event, the free one-day event that they'll throw.
And let me ask you, how old were you? How old were you when all this was happening? So you bought your first house. How old were you?
I was 26, man.
So damn, that's young, man. Congrats. So you were relatively young. You were working a good job. So with that money that you were making, you decided to buy your own house. Then you bought your own house, and in that process, you got that curiosity. Things sparked in you again, and you're like, "Shit, I want to learn this." And then you got licensed, and then you're browsing on Facebook. You found fortune builders. You went to the one-day event. And then what happened next? Yeah,
that was completely coincidental. So one of those little ads popped up. I clicked on it. I was like, well, this seems interesting. So went to their one-day event. They'll talk about wholesaling and flipping.
Yep.
And I was like, man, this is really cool. So I figured investing $200 or $300, however much the weekend course was, would probably be good. And so I did that. Did the weekend course, and of course on the Sundays, at the end they'll do a sales fest to some degree and pitch you their $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 mentorship or coaching program, which was not for me. I thought that was a little bit too much. And not to speak bad of fortune builders, I know a lot of fortune builder guys that have done well, and from my understanding, it's a pretty good system and really good coaching, but it just wasn't for me.
Right.
So I started researching things online regarding fortune builders and reviews and what people thought. And that landed me on Bigger Pockets. So from Bigger Pockets. Yeah, exactly. University. So from Bigger Pockets, I started watching their podcasts, connecting with people, becoming a little bit more active on their site, on their forums. And it got to the point where I was like, I want to do this full time. And so that was the next step, understanding that I wanted to go into wholesaling full time, become an investor full time. And my approach, which again, looking back on it, was, in my opinion, at this point incorrect, was, well, now that I have my license and I want to get into investing, probably the best way to learn is to become an agent. Mm. If you've been an agent and or a wholesaler, running an agent business is a business in and of itself. And if you don't kill, you don't eat, right? So it's something I didn't understand very well at the time. Like I said, lacking sales and business and entrepreneurial experience. So stupid me went ahead and jumped feet first into becoming a real estate agent without really understanding swing what it was going to be like, and quit my job. So I would say that's the next main chapter.
Nice. And like, so this, I want to kind of get into what your business looks like now. I mean, I know we're filming this in Corona times, but just I would like to know, like, pretend Corona doesn't exist right now. What does it look like? But what would you say out there to the realtors? Because, you hit on a good point. Being a realtor, an agent, and being a wholesaler are two different things. Although I do think there's a lot of synergy. And even in my business now, I own a brokerage that is fed through the wholesale business. But what do you think is, what do you think would be the best advice to give? Because you're doing a bunch of wholesale deals. You're a realtor. What do you think would be the best advice to give someone who is interested in investing in wholesaling, but is a realtor and has like the realtor hat on, getting listings, working with buyers? What would be something that you can tell them as like a good guiding force to like the investing side? Like, okay, I'm a realtor. I like investing. Alain, like, what do you think I should do? How should I think? Like, what's my next step here?
And this is in the case of wanting to get involved in wholesaling, right? And at that.
Correct.
Well, like you said, I think there's a lot of synergy between both. It's definitely easier if you already have experience as a realtor and are already a realtor doing business to then transition, I think, into the wholesaling side. I would say the main thing is likely just trying to connect again with cash buyers that are in that space. Looking to sell to an investor is going to be completely different than looking to sell to a homeowner or a typical family that's just looking to buy a house to live in. So the approach is different. What investors look for, of course, is completely different than what a typical family or homeowner is going to be looking for. And I would say focus on that. Start networking within that space of investors. And then, of course, investors that are active and looking to purchase and begin to understand what they're looking to buy and what their criteria are. So I would say that'd probably be the biggest thing. I'm licensed here in Indiana, and so is my partner. But again, we do not work as agents or realtors. We mainly, have our license not only for credibility, but of course also to be able to look into the market and utilize those resources. But do not work as agents in the typical sense.
Love that. Love that. So, Alain, tell me a little bit about what your business looks like today. What kind of like marketing you're doing? What are you focusing on? Are you doing wholesale and fix and flip? Do you have any other little niche businesses going on? Tell us a little bit about that.
And this is assuming Corona's not going on, or literally right now.
Pretend like 2 months ago, Corona was not even was still in Wuhan.
Yeah, for sure. So I partnered with my now current partner about 3.5 years ago, and we've been going strong since. We've been growing a little bit over the last 3 years. I think last year we did about 80 to 90 deals, if I recall correctly.
Beautiful.
As far as our business, our bread and butter marketing wise has been direct marketing, whether it be postcards or letters. I think it's always tried and true and will likely continue to work. So our bread and butter has been direct mail marketing. We tried our hand at Facebook stuff for a little while with a Canadian company. That didn't go so well. So we stopped doing that. And as of the last few months, late last year, we've been doing a lot more direct text messaging, which has proven fruitful. So right now, I would say, again, if Corona wasn't going on, I would say that it'd probably be maybe 70-30 direct mail, 30% texting, not to include either repeat business from people that we've worked with before or business from other wholesalers locally that just aren't experienced and are needing help moving deals. So not including that, our main lead source is direct mail and now texting as well.
Right. That's awesome, man. So so you're doing basically everything off market. About 70% direct mail, 30% texting. You have a partner.
Yes.
80 to 90 deals, which is, I mean, you kind of downplayed it, but dude, that's a ton of deals. That's a ton of deals.
It's not bad. The way we've divided our business up, so we run it pretty lean. There's a lot of bigger companies here in Indy that, have large teams. I think you do too in Miami, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. As I have acquisitions managers, dispositions, transactional coordinators, and that's not to include the people that are above them, just at the helm of the ship. So the way we've divided our business, it's literally myself, my partner, and then just a couple of VAs in the Philippines. I handle all front end stuff. So anything acquisitions related, I take care of after our leads come in. And so from negotiations to making sure we get pictures, whether I do it or I have a third party go do it, or the sellers actually, all the way to contracting is what I handle. And then my partner takes it from the point of contracting to the sale of the investor. And so we do run it pretty lean. It's essentially just the two of us, and don't really have people under us. So our team isn't large by any means. I guess it's 80 deals has not been bad in, the last year for two to three people, all things considered.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. And because, you hear a lot about, big teams and, you hear a lot about virtual and in-person things of that nature. Seems to me like you run a pretty good, tight, virtual team. You got people in the Philippines. You got your partner. You guys have it divided up pretty well.
Yeah.
What? So let me ask you this, man. Like you have a pretty good little business going. What do after Corona, right? Let's say all this thing's over. What are you excited about, man? What do you think is something that you and your partner are going to start talking about, or do you guys plan on buying more properties? Do you guys plan on renting? Do you guys plan on doing like commercial or a different type of business? Like what are you guys excited about for the future? I mean, it seems like you guys got a pretty cool little thing going.
Yeah. So our main business together is, again, like I said, the wholesaling side of things, right? Just flipping contracts. To your question before, we don't flip. Like actually, we don't rehab and sell properties. We simply wholesale. Some properties we do take down with private money and do what people know as wholetailing, right? Where you put a little bit of money into it, maybe get it cleaned out, clean up the yard maybe, and then list the property on the MLS. So we'll do those sparingly. If it's a really good deal and we feel comfortable, that's something that we'll do. But for the most part, we're just wholesaling properties. On the personal side of things, we both look to hold. So I have a couple rentals. I've tried my hand at land contracts, like seller financing deals. And right now I'm looking to do a mortgage and note for the first time, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm completely ignorant about it, but really wanted to learn the process and see how that goes. So, on the personal side, I would like to continue being a buy and hold investor. Any money that I've made the last 3 years, I've just squirreled away, looking for good deals, to hold long term. And so to your question, I personally am interested in multifamily. I've had my finger on the pulse for a little while now. I've done a couple classes. I've been to Boston to some seminars and was in Houston, Colorado a couple months ago to go to Joe Fairless's event. So, yeah, man, when it comes to that here in the near future, I'm excited to get more into multifamily and seeing what opportunities will, I mean, sadly, because of what's going on, but the repercussions of this will allow for good opportunities in real estate to come about. And so my focus will be mainly multifamily, perhaps commercial, but I'll be looking at multifamily properties.
Yeah. All right. Love it. Love it. Yes. I think it's a very healthy way to get into it, right? You start getting also business. You're very lean and mean. You got your partner, you got things going on, you saved a bunch of money. And then you start learning about the kind of like what Warren Buffett says, don't invest in what you don't know. So you're starting to know about it, you start to learn, go to seminars and stuff. So you seem like pretty self-aware about what's going on and kind of education, investing. Let me ask you this, man, because I have this little thing that I think everyone who tries to build their own business, success, money, real estate, entrepreneurship, I feel like everyone has got some kind of little chip on the shoulder for instance, like, I'm obsessed with understanding people's stories. And this is part of the reason I do this podcast. I love connecting with people. I really have an obsession connecting with people, understanding stories, some of the failures, some of the successes, how they thought about it, things like that. I want to ask you this, and this could be non-business related. What is something that you feel you might be obsessed with? You might have like a little tip in mind that's like, man, I love that subject. I'm very obsessed with this or that. Do you have anything that kind of comes to mind for that?
Well, outside of the fitness aspect, like I said, that is my main passion and hobby outside of real estate. It's something that, I have to do every day. I stay active in whatever way I can. So that's one of my passions and one of my obsessions. But as of the last few years, I would say, I've been obsessed with growth on the personal side and trying things that are difficult, as I think that's where there is the most growth. So if something's uncomfortable, then I think you should do it because it is uncomfortable.
Yeah. I like that.
The fact that it's uncomfortable will make most people avoid it. So like you were saying at the beginning, I've tried a lot of things over the last few years and try to step outside of my comfort zone. Yeah, I did improv comedy for a little while just to see what it was like. It was fun. At the end of the day, it wasn't for me, but yeah, I did that for a bit. I started salsa dancing, maybe a year ago now, a year and some change. I'm Latino, and I swore that I was not going to die without being able to dance, right? So
at least learn the basics, right?
at least learn the basics. Yeah. And it was always a thing that I was uncomfortable doing. It was foreign to me, and I found it difficult. And so I avoided it for very long. And, it's been a good growth process. Granted, we haven't been able to do it for a few months now, or a couple months now, but, yeah, that's one thing that I've been doing recently as far as stepping out of my comfort zone and growing. We were just out in Atlanta with some of the people here in Indy that dance for a large conference when it comes to that with, pros from around the world. So it was an interesting experience, very humbling and, again, very uncomfortable, but precisely why it must be done. So yeah, a lot of personal growth. I've been reading a lot over the last couple of years too. It's a habit that I had as a child, but then lost as I became more interested in sports and activities, and I stopped reading, and I picked it back up maybe 3 years ago. And for anyone that doesn't read, I highly suggest that you start a habit of reading, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes in the morning, and go from there. So yeah, those would be the things that I would say right now I'm passionate about and enjoy.
Yeah. And I'm doing quite a few of these conversations for the podcast and things like this. I noticed that the trend, a pretty big trend, is people do get obsessed with personal growth and health, like kind of like the four pillars in life: the health, wealth, love, and happiness. And each of those have their own separate little subcategories. But I've noticed that people who end up doing well get obsessed with one of those four pillars. And you mentioned health, and you mentioned wealth, and also happiness comes into self-development things. Yeah. So I think it's and I forgot what author it was that said that the people who are most fulfilled in their lives are the ones who have those four pillars as most interconnected as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you incorporate your health, and maybe you make friends working out or playing tennis, etc., then you feel very fulfilled when you're like, oh crap, my friends like tennis too. My friends like to read as well. Oh, my business partner also does this. That's how people feel really fulfilled. Yeah. And you probably met a bunch of your friends from playing all these sports and snowboarding and all these things. Yeah. So, and you hit on some good points. So I would encourage, you that you're listening, think about that. Think about the health. Think about, like, even if you don't feel you're obsessed with it, something that you would talk about on a Saturday, to a buddy or to some family member. And how can you incorporate that in your life and spread that, spread that, so I think that's so cool. And so what was like the one that was most uncomfortable for you? I'm curious.
Dancing.
Really?
Yeah, I would say so.
Improv. I would think improv is, I'm planning to do improv, soon. What dancing? I would think improv.
So the thing with improv, right? Like, everyone's in the same class and everyone's new to it, right? I would say that dancing socially was the biggest obstacle to overcome. Because in my scenario, when you're learning and you start going out, most of the people that are out dancing already have been dancing for years, right? So you go out there and you see people that have been doing this for forever. And it's very intimidating or at least for me it was, to go out there and just ask random people who are clearly much more experienced than I am to dance with. So that was my thing. I mean, sure, there's uncomfortable aspects of improv naturally, but you're all there at the same level and all being silly. So yeah, I would say that dancing for me was the most uncomfortable thing at the beginning. And to your point too, by the way, what you were saying before, it's really interesting how it seems that most of the things that bring the biggest joy and most happiness in life are not achieved through money, right? You can't buy them.
Yeah.
Whether it's spending time with family or being healthy. And for the most part, it's things that we take for granted and we just don't realize we have until we don't. So yeah, it's a good point you brought that up.
Yeah, that's good. And how do you feel that, like, real estate or investing or wholesale, how do you feel that has helped with that part of your life that you get to, snowboard and you get to, work out every day and do these types of things? Like, how do you feel that has helped out? Has it been more the time? Has it been freedom? Like, and I like to speak kind of, honestly and openly. Like, for example, for myself, and, in the beginning, I worked a ton. So it wasn't like it was probably like from 60 to 70 hours a week. Yeah. So it wasn't really like I had all the time in the world and all the freedom. And I would want to know from your perspective, how is it now? And how was it when you started? Hours and fulfillment, things of that nature. So someone who's listening to this, that's either just starting or done their first 5-10 deals, can understand like the true nature of the beast. So see if you can go into that for a little bit.
Like any other business, I would think, at the beginning, it's difficult just because you're not familiar with it. You have no experience. You fast forward a few years later, and I'm sure you fall under this camp. And I mean, you could wholesale a property in your sleep, right? I've gotten to the point where we've closed deals over text, never having been to a property, where, if you would have told me that 3 years ago, I would have looked at you like you're insane.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, it's a lot tougher. You're learning. It's uncomfortable again, which leads to growth, but you're in the learning phases. You're not really sure what you're doing. You're stumbling. You're trying to pick yourself back up. You're spending more time to do the things that now maybe take you 5 minutes. So yes, at the beginning, I had a lot less time to do those things. You're making less money just because you're doing less deals. Now, of course, I'm in a better financial position. And on top of that, we manage our own time. So when it comes to staying active or doing other things that I want to do, if Bob and I want to take a week off to go snowboarding in Colorado, we can do so whenever. So it's awesome. It gives you more freedom. You're still working a decent amount, of course, don't get me wrong. And when you do your own thing, you're pretty much on the clock 24/7 to some degree.
Yeah.
Not like you clock out at 4 and then you forget about everything until the next day at 8 o'clock in the morning. But I like that better, right? I'll take the freedom that it gives me over the more secure set of time during a day that a regular 9 to 5 would give you. So financially, I'm in a better position than I was before. I've learned a lot more. I've learned a lot more about business because of it organically. When I first started, dude, I would not just staring at my phone to make a phone call would make me anxious. No matter who I talk, I'll call anyone, right?
Yeah.
So it's little things like that go a long way, and it's skills that you pick up that cannot be taught. You just pick them up on while on the job, if you want to call it that. So yeah.
I love that. And that's a good point, man. It's in the beginning, it's uncomfortable. It's not the freedom life that people sometimes pitch to be. It's things, it's going, you're flipping, you're talking to people, you're going to talk to sellers, you got to make offers, they're going to tell you no way more than you're going to get yes. You're going to get people on the phone that say many bad words.
That's putting it nicely.
Yeah, many bad words. And Alain, let me ask this, man. What does roughly like your daily schedule or your daily like habits look like in a work day? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So, what kind of stuff are you doing? Are you hopping on the phone? Or you do a morning routine? Like, can you run us a little bit through that so people can get an idea?
Yeah. I like schedules. I like routine for sure. Like I have habits. So I guess my main habits is, I wake up. First thing I do is I read for at least a half an hour to an hour in the morning. Usually getting up around 6. So I'll do that. I'll leave my bedroom before doing so. I make my bed. It's like a thing that I have to do before I leave. I'll eat breakfast. I'll read a little bit more while eating breakfast if I can. Then I'll meditate for a little while and I'll journal afterwards. And by now it's probably around like 8 o'clock. And one thing that is not that it's hard to do, but it's hard to stay consistent at because it sucks. It's not fun. Or at least for me, it's not, is aside from working out, I think staying limber is very important. So I do a stretching routine of about half an hour every morning too. Wow. Just to stay on top of that. And again, it helps with injury prevention. It's just overall, it's really good. Right. So that's my morning routine. Once around 9 o'clock comes around, then I'm just doing wholesaling stuff. I'm taking care of leads, following up with people, the typical, right?
Yeah.
Getting on the phone, texting, emails, And that fills the bulk of my day. Right now it's slowed down a little bit given the situation, but for the most part, that's mainly what I'm doing.
Gotcha.
Into the afternoon, and then, working out in the afternoon and in the evenings, and rinse and repeat.
Hanging out and stuff. I love that. I love that. So as you guys can see, like, if you're running a business, like Alain has been doing 80, 90 deals, has a partner, so he has help. He has a VA. He's got things going on, but notice that he still is pretty strict with himself when it comes to some kind of regimen. Like he stretches, he reads, he works, he follows up with leads, he sends emails, he sends offers, he does what he's supposed to do. And the two most important things in this business, I always talk about it, is if you want to be successful, is you got to talk to sellers daily and you got to make offers daily.
And follow up, man.
Yeah, and the follow up, exactly.
Yeah, follow up is huge.
If you do those two things and follow up, I mean, you're almost guaranteed that you're going to get stuff under contract. Now it's up to you. If you analyzed it well, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
And also what I think is, and what I got from you in this conversation is that on the downtime or on the quote unquote free time that you're not working, you're not like completely doing free time stuff. Like you're stretching, you're working out, you're reading, you're, doing activities that, give you some fear or whatever. So notice these patterns as you guys are listening to this. People who make different types of income, people who achieve a little bit more in their life as far as success and financial and health and wellness, these people on their free time, for the bulk of their free time, it's actually some kind of productive thing. It's just not work related. You're not reading your emails, but you're reading a book. You're not, you're stretching for your body. You're learning to dance salsa for your mind and like to keep you, meeting people and things like that. So I think that's something very cool. And I remember I noticed that about you when you mentioned that. And it's key, man, the freedom that this business can give you, but it's what you do with that freedom that really can catapult you to like new levels.
Yeah, for sure. Plus I would say it's also related, right? I mean, if you stay healthy and fit and sleep well, then you have more energy to do the actual business, right?
Yeah.
There's days, and I'm sure you go through this, where just mentally, maybe you're not all there or you're super tired. And the last thing you want to do is talk to a seller or buys another property and underwrite some more deals.
Right.
So yeah, staying healthy and staying in good shape and eating well and sleeping well. Sure, it's things that you do outside of the business, but then of course it also benefits the business itself and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Same with reading. I mean, maybe you read something that's not business related, whether it be, I don't know, choose a personal growth topic that still is going to feed into your business life to some degree. So yeah, even if it's growth outside of business, I think it still helps you grow in that aspect as well.
Yeah, I love it. So that was a really good, I think that helps a lot, man. I'm very good. I'm very, particular on like practical. It's like talking about theory and stuff is cool, but I like the practical. Oh, this is what I do. This is what I do. So thank you for that, man.
So honestly, it's the consistency too, right? Yeah. It's like working out or eating well. I mean, you just gotta stick to it, even if it's a little bit a day. And it's difficult because it's so simple and easy to do. That's why it's very hard to adhere to. But at the end of the day, like anything else, just like follow up, it's just like be consistent with it. And then of course you'll see results. You'll close deals, or, if you want to lose weight, then if you just eat a little less or work out a little bit more, then it'll happen eventually.
I love that. And a really good book that explains that in like a very systematical way is called No Excuses by Brian Tracy. I've read it a couple times, and it like explains almost every aspect of your life very well. So Alain, I got like one big question for you, and then I'd want to know what you'd do if you had to start over, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
When you think of $100 million, what comes to mind? Like, I'm not saying, it's not if you want to make it or whatever, but like someone says Alain, $100 million. What do you think of? Do you think of, let's say, what kind of business, like, how do you in your mind articulate or get there?
What do you mean? Like to achieve $1 million, or what's the first thought that comes to mind?
To achieve 100 million.
I would say leverage.
Okay.
So I guess to get there, and not that we run anything big and are making millions of dollars, but
Right.
I think the main concept would be leverage, whether it's leveraging capital or leveraging technology or leveraging labor. I think that's the biggest takeaway, that if you want to reach that, that's something that you're going to have to do at some point. So leverage and scaling, and I'd say scalability through leverage. So whether it's hiring more people to be more effective, or having a better process and better technology implemented, or having more money, whether it's private money or from institutional lenders, I think leveraging all those things is what comes to mind when thinking about $100 million. Other than that, Bora Bora comes to mind. So martinis and Bora Bora.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I mean, leverage is big and for those of guys who didn't really understand what he was saying was, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but even in any business or in any field, the more that you have leverage, so the more money that you can borrow, that's leverage,
Yeah.
the more people that can be hired or be doing specific activities. That's leverage in systems and processes. In tech, there's leverage in online systems and processes that can be done automatically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for example, like for us, a big one is like drip campaigns, right, within our CRM. So drip campaigns are just things that automatically go out depending on what schedule you have for them. And they're essentially doing follow-up for you. You don't have to get on the phone and call someone. This is already happening.
I love things that you can work on once, and it's like, I love that. It's like a weird little thing. Like,
yeah, it's like VAs. Like maybe it's not worth your time to be taking calls and writing down information about, properties and sellers. And so you have a VA that does that for you, and they you're leveraging labor to free up your time to be able to be more productive doing something else.
I love it.
So yeah, you hit it on the head.
Cool. And so, all right. So last thing here. So let's say, someone took away, your money, your house, whatever, and all you have is your knowledge.
Yeah.
What would you do in this day and age, post Corona, back to normal? What would you do in this day and age to start to get one deal? Like, what would be the quickest way in your mind? Let's say you only have a couple $100. Let's say you got $200, maybe $300 in your pocket, and you know what you know now. What would you do to the soonest way to get a deal so you can pay bills and do stuff?
Okay. Well, like I said, I think that direct mail and even our texting is very, very effective. Granted, with a couple $100, that probably wouldn't get you too far.
Yes.
Well, I would say if that is the case, and at least you have the knowledge, but you don't have the money to invest in those other things, driving for dollars, finding properties to just, because when you send out a lot of direct mail, you're to some degree, either it's a smart way of targeting, and you have to be smart about it. You can't just send mail to all of the city, right? There's going to be criteria. I think driving for dollars is probably the best way to find a possible deal, because you already know that house is in some type of distress. Whereas if you're sending 15,000 pieces of mail, you're not necessarily hitting every single home that's going to possibly become a deal. Yeah. If you have the knowledge and you have the time and you don't have the money, I'd say driving for dollars would probably be the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, and if those of you guys don't know what driving for dollars is, it says it in the title. Basically, you drive around, you see a house that looks run down. I would start with in your local neighborhood. So drive no more than 5 minutes from your house and just drive through the streets. See a house that the grass is high. See a grass that there's a tarp on the roof, windows broken, looks abandoned, or even if it's not abandoned, it just looks more run down than most of the houses. And you can either door knock, or what would you do? Let's say you're driving for dollars. Would you knock on the door? Would you skip trace them? What would you do?
Yeah. So, like you said, if we have the knowledge to do so, you could easily look up the owner information via just public record, right? So you look up the ownership for the home. It could be either an LLC or a private individual. And from there you can get on a skip tracing website, and there's several. I mean, I'm not going to get into the details of that, but skip tracing is essentially software, or I guess providers that allow you to put in information about a person or an LLC, and then being able to find likely or possible phone numbers or contact information for those individuals. So, from there, you would hustle either sending emails or calling out to the owner and inquiring if they're looking to sell the home or not. That would probably be the quickest way if you have no money to get a deal.
Yeah.
Maybe networking with other people that could potentially bring you something.
I like that. Yeah. And for skip tracing, like you said, there's so many different things that, there's so many websites. You can literally just put skip tracing for REI Skip, there's REI Automator, there's Skip Genie, there's IDI.com. Like, there's so many. So don't let that stop you. Just go out there, find a property that looks distressed, either knock on the door or go home on your computer, skip trace it using one of these websites. If you're doing one search, it's extremely cheap, probably like $1 or less.
Yeah.
And go out there and hustle, man. But I appreciate it, dude. That was some good stuff. I really liked all the information and the practical steps that you gave us.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks a lot for having me on. It was definitely a very enjoyable conversation.
Awesome, guys. And Alain, how can let's say someone's in Indy or someone wants to like follow you or learn more about what you do or maybe connect with you? What would be the best way they can get you?
Let's see. Well, I mean, you can find me on Facebook or on Bigger Pockets. I don't know if on here you're going to have, my name entirely. Right. If you look up Aline, ALAIN 5487, that's my Instagram account. So if that's an easy way to reach me, you can hit me.
Say it one more time.
Yep. A as in Apple, L as in Larry, A as in Apple, I as in Intelligent, N as in Nancy, 5487. That's my Instagram. You could find me via my name on Facebook. Alain, last name Perez, Perez. I'm on Bigger Pockets as well. So you could look for me on Bigger Pockets. I'd say those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me. So yeah, if anyone has any any questions or is curious about the Indy market or needs anything here in Indy, then please touch base.
I love it. Dude, so again, guys, I appreciate you guys listening. Again, you can find this episode on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, all that. If you'd like some of the information, feel free to reach out to Alain, myself, like it, comment, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks, Raul.